But your backstory, which I'm intrigued with,
Yes.
everybody knows what the kind of last 4 years have brought with the brothers and what you're doing, your loyalty, which is so important. But I always like to go back to the start with my guests.
Sure.
Get more of a bit of understanding about you, where you grew up and how it all began.
Sure. Well, my life was very difficult. I feel like the world is set up, and this is certainly a big part of mine and Andrew's origin story and how we became who we are today. Because the world is set up and rigged, I feel, very heavily in the West, especially against men. Overwhelmingly against poor men, working class men. And the idea is to keep everyone in their place. This is something that I noticed as a very young man. So apparently my family was doing quite well up until I was about 1.5 years old. So my father was a United States military man. His record's still classified. I can't get my hands on it. I don't know exactly what he did for the military, but he was fluent in many languages and did something along those lines. And he had a relatively successful military career until I was about 1.5, when he fell out. Allegedly, the story from his side is he fell out with some of his superiors. He was offered an honorable discharge. Here you go, sign this paper because you have a personality disorder. Nobody knows what that means. He didn't know what it means. And he says, no, I'm not signing this paper because that means I'm crazy. His line was, my sanity is not for sale. So I'm not taking your money and I'm not accepting that I'm crazy. I'm going to fight for my career back. And that was a fruitless exercise. He fought for his career back. I mean, up until the day he died, he was still on the phone to the FBI and the CIA trying to get his security clearance back. So up until I was about 1.5, my family was doing relatively well. And then we fell into poverty. I don't remember ever having my own bedroom. It didn't seem strange to me, but even living in the States, myself, my brother, my sister all lived in one bedroom. My parents had another in a small sort of 2-bedroom duplex kind of setup. And upon my family no longer being able to afford medical insurance, my mother decided to move to England because England has the NHS. She's English, which is what the benefit system is for, English people who've fallen on hard times. That's what it should be used for anyway. And I was in a homeless shelter for about 2.5 years, a hostel house where individual families lived in certain rooms of this house. And this was one for women and kids, but some of the other women of the other families were drug addicts and that kind of thing. And after 2.5 years in a homeless shelter, moved to council housing, the worst estate, which to an American would be the projects, I guess, in what is arguably the worst town in England, Luton. And yeah, that's where it all began. And there was always this feeling that Andrew and I had that we had to somehow escape, because every single path that we looked at, that was the conventional path prescribed to us by our teachers, our very low budget school, and every single figure of authority in our lives who worked for the government, including social workers, etc., was it didn't seem like the way out. It seemed like a way to plug yourself into the system and become one of the townspeople, working at a store, managing a store, doing X, Y, and Z, being an electrician or a builder. And there's no shame in any of these jobs, but we just knew we had to get out somehow, and we've tried all sorts of various businesses. I've had more failed businesses than I had successful businesses, to be honest. And yeah, eventually we made it.
How were you at school?
I was very good at school, so I became disenfranchised with the education system. I was a straight A student basically all of my life until I became about 14.5, 15. And I started bunking off all the time. Me and my friend Mark would just leave school 2 or 3 days a week, walk around the local parks, I don't know, just do stupid shit that teenage kids do. Play with matches, start fires, shoplift,
The good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. The good stuff. So I'm admitting to being criminal here. I did have a relatively successful shoplifting career at age 14, 15. Nicking aftershaves, DVDs, video games, that kind of thing. And I really just gave up on school and education, which is ironic because I've always loved reading and learning. There's something about the educational system that didn't speak to my soul as a young man. It's something that didn't interest me as a young man. And even at that age, I would spend my evenings, reading, learning, watching documentaries, but I had no interest in the education system. So my GCSE results were all very average, C's and B's. I got 1 U in music because I couldn't stand my teacher and I never showed up to the class.
What does a U mean?
A U, ungradable or unmarkable.
So
basically a complete failure. Yeah, it was a music class. My teacher was, even by today's standards, I know if I met her today, I know I wouldn't be able to stand her, but I couldn't stand her when I was 15 years of age. But I did very average in my GCSE results, but I was a straight A student before that, which is very strange. The educational system really disenfranchised me. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like being in school. I didn't like the homework or the lessons. So yeah, I started bunking off and didn't pay too much attention, but I'm an what's called an autodidact. I'm self-taught. I know a lot. I read a lot. I'm a very knowledgeable person, but that's all from self-education. I didn't go to university or anything else. That's just about my entire education story.
Yeah, but that's where the growth is. We know now the system, I always speak about it, but John Rockefeller started the schooling system way back in the early 1900s.
Yes, you're right.
Women wanted rights, feminists, let's work and equality. What happens is not the men are just then working and paying taxes. The women start working, paying taxes. And then what happens is if both parents are working, we'll take your children, we'll educate your children the way we want them to see the world, not to be free thinkers, to memorization. They don't use the right side of the brain, which is individuality and creativity. You're sitting at a desk. Apparently, the worst creation ever to mankind is the chair.
Yeah,
it's the most destructive thing to human beings. And like you say, you're putting your hands up. Can I go to the toilet? If you question the narrative, you're a bad student. A certain bit of paper with certain numbers or letters on it makes you a bad student. Like, it is crazy.
Yes.
My daughter's homeschooled now.
Good.
She was at a private school, and one of the kids identifying as a cat, fake tail, and fucking bringing in a litter box, and the head teacher approved it.
If you told that to me 20 years ago, I think you were joking.
Yeah.
And it's sad that I know you're serious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's absolutely tragic.
What made you get into the kickboxing, fighting?
In Luton, it's a very rough town. Very little to do. A lot of my friends were involved in crime, breaking into houses, this kind of local gang warfare based on postcodes, LU3 versus LU4. Let's go beat them up. Let's go beat them up. I'm very lucky. I don't think it was that I was necessarily more ambitious or I wanted to avoid the life of crime so much. I wasn't a little, nerd who thought, oh, I can't get involved in that. I was just very lucky to find the kickboxing gym that I found and to find the trainer that I found, because young men are angry and they're frustrated and they're broke. And they're, especially in this day and age when they're seeing how other people live, it used to be reality TV back in the day. I used to watch MTV Cribs and that kind of stuff. But today you see how other people live and you see the stuff that other people have. Some of them not even so old, 18, 19. And there's this frustration that if you don't direct correctly can destroy yourself and others around you. And it was a stroke of luck that I found my kickboxing gym, because it was something that I enjoyed, that I could focus all of my energy into. So when my friends were drinking, experimenting with drugs, doing whatever nonsense people do in Luton and still do to this day to a much higher, degree, I decided to go down the kickboxing gym. And I was there all the time. If I didn't have money to pay, the trainer let me train for free. Clean up, mop the floors, hang the bags up, that kind of thing. And it was a blessing from God, I think. If I had never found that kickboxing gym, you wouldn't know my name today.
Did you start kickboxing before Andrew?
We started around the same time, a couple days after each other. He found the gym and said, you need to come down here. These guys really know how to fight. And I got down there. A lot of people much older than me. My friend Nigel Thomas, who's with me even in Dubai right now. I was maybe 14 and a half, 15 years old when I went down there, started getting beaten up. And it humbles you, because a lot of young men feel invincible and they feel like if they get angry enough, they'll beat anyone up. Fighting is a skill like anything else. You need to know how to do it to be good at it. And, as a bit of a tough guy, I never lost a fight in school, that kind of thing, to show up at this kickboxing gym and get my ass handed to me for years before I got any good, years, was a very humbling experience. And I think it really grounded me, and I wanted to be better. So just instead of doing nonsense, I was down the kickboxing gym all the time. It was the only thing I had to do in Luton. It was the only thing I could do that didn't cost me money and that I found entertaining.
Do you think it saved your life?
100%. 100%. I don't know. I'm not saying I would have ended up as some reprobate or some, or in prison or anything like that. My life really wasn't that bad, and I was quite smart and relatively focused. But I mean, I may well be moderately successful in this alternate universe. I don't know, high-level car salesman, something like that. I was always very good at sales. Maybe I was selling Audis or, BMWs or Mercedes at this point in my life. I'm 36 years old, somewhere in Luton or around North London. I would have done okay, always, and I would have lived a respectable life, always. But yeah, the kickboxing gym certainly reshaped my mentality. There's that saying from ancient Greece. They say, give me the boy for 7 years and I'll give you the man. And that's what I feel my trainer did for me. He's the closest thing I have to a father figure remaining on this earth. His name's Amir Subasic, a Bosniak Muslim from, I guess, southeastern Europe, if you know where Bosnia is. And yeah, he saved my life and he helped shape my mentality.
What about father growing up?
My
I
father?
know Andrew spoke about the tough upbringing and
Yeah.
your dad being a chess player and
Yeah.
basically genius. Like, how was your upbringing? Did you see it less by being a little younger? Or did you see what Andrew went through as well?
Well, maybe. I think that, the fact that I am younger, I certainly was influenced by my father slightly less, but that's not his fault at all. I mean, just in the way that when I moved to England and we were separated from him by a distance, Andrew was almost 10 at this point. I was still 8. So I got 2 years less, I guess, as of him being there full time. But he was always an echo of authority in my house. I think that he did such a good job when we were very young, even living in England, even before the internet, even when we used to have to walk down in the rain to a payphone box and into the numbers from one of those phone cards to call the United States and actually get in touch with him. If my mother ever said, I'm going to tell your dad about this, I was like, I had second thoughts always. So I feel like he was a very good example of what a man should be. And although he wasn't always around every single day, like a lot of dads are, I always admired him. I always respected him. I always feared him, which I think is very healthy for, a young man to fear his father in a way, not in the way that, he's aggressive or abusive or unpredictable, just as a sign of authority. There's a line you can't cross in this world. And, your father's the first line of defense, because if you cross too many lines, the police are the next line of defense. Prison is the next line of defense in terms of protecting society from you. So if you start getting out of hand in a way that's, not quite criminal, but things you shouldn't be doing, your father's the first authority figure to step in and say, you know what, boy, I'll kick your ass. And he would have done it, and he beat me up a few times, never left any marks, never broke any bones. But I was saying this on X recently about how hitting your kids is fine. And someone, no, did your father ever hit you? I said, yeah. They said, why? I said, I stole his fireworks and set fire to myself by accident. I had this burn scar down here for like 3 years, and the side of my hair was still missing here up until a few years ago. I had to have it grafted on.
And I'm like, Jackson.
And I was like, I totally deserved the ass whooping I got. Like, who did I think I was at 7 years old to nick the man's fireworks and start setting them off in a shopping cart with me and my friends? I totally deserved the ass kicking, and I didn't do it again. So, yeah.
That's the main thing, because I nearly set my dad's car on fire.
Yeah.
You know how the lighters you used to get press in?
Yes.
I was a little firebug. I set all the bins on fire back in the day.
I used to do that too.
I loved the smell. I loved everything from it. Nearly set the car on fire. Whip my ass, but I was like a Kit Kat. Used to get silver foil inside the Kit Kat back in the day. So I tried to put a bit of that over the seat. So as soon as he walked in, he's done, what the fuck? His seat was half burnt. And I done, my mum used to have like plastic plants, but she had like a fire, so I used to take one out, but I used to put it against the fire because it used to give me a smell.
Yeah.
This one went right up in flames, so when I pulled it out, it nearly fucking set the house on fire. And I got a couple of ass whoopings as well, but not as, not as extreme. And I thought, okay, I'm not doing that again, because when I was thinking about doing it, I still doing it outside.
Yeah.
Just not in my...
You remember the ass?
Yeah. But there was just, like I say, massive respect for my dad as well, but very strict. He was a bouncer in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Didn't fuck around. But it does make you tough. It does something internally. I hated fighting. I hated anger. I hated violence. I was kind of sheepish towards it.
Yeah.
But then when the anger went, it was a different ball game. I was never a fighter. Done a bit of Muay Thai in a place called the Grip House. Still do boxing to this day. But I believe I wish I'd have done it younger. I played football. My dedication wasn't the same, but I feel as if I was in some sort of martial arts. I feel as if my dedication would have been different, because the feeling is different. I'm scared every time I spar, still to this day, 41 years old. I had a fight 3 years ago, I was fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And I was main event, but I was coming out dancing.
Yeah.
My coach says, it's fucking warm under these lights, so have him wait in the ring. So instead of playing one song, I played 2. So it was 7 minutes, my ring walk. So the time I got to the ring, I was... And I didn't realise the mental capacity of it, because every man thinks they can fight 4,000 times more than what they actually can.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
it really is.
For me, I was just so scared of getting embarrassed. I was so scared of getting ashamed because I'm thinking everybody would have a field day. Everybody wants to jump on the hate.
Of course.
When you're successful, there's only a small percentage who clap, whether you're successful or not. But when you fail, you get more of the taste of it.
Yeah.
And that's a sad reality we're in.
Well, Andrew raised this point very pertinently on the internet when Israel Adesanya got knocked out at the last UFC, or the 2 UFCs ago. I'm like, do you know how hard this is and how good he is? And he's fighting one of the world's best. You know, if someone loses a football game, they don't get shamed like fighters when they get knocked out. I'm like, Israel Adesanya, I guess, is arguably one of the best strikers on the face of the earth right now. Top 20, 30 in the world. Yeah, he got knocked out, so who cares? That's the name of the game. He's still a man who's worthy of respect, and you should still, you know, clap. He's putting on a show for all of you to watch and to gamble on and to enjoy. And the fact that he got knocked out doesn't take anything away from the fact that he's an amazing fighter. And I think that people with some humility and people who have achieved something in their life will watch that and think, you know what, bad day for him. But, you know, the guy who's never had a fight in his life can't run more than, you know, 500 meters without passing out and having a heart attack, sits on his couch all day drinking the cans and eating the kebabs, who'll be like, oh, as he got knocked out, he should have just done this and that. I'm like, you don't know anything. Just shut up.
Fight fans change from fight to fight, though.
Yeah.
Look at Paddy the Baddy. He was kind of loved and hated.
Yes.
I feel as if he's becoming more loved. His last fight, he looked as if he'd matured. His last fight, he looked clean. He looked, everything was precise.
I like him.
He looked big, strong. That's the first time he's looked like a proper contender.
Yes.
He's not someone who's just making up the numbers. He could potentially, the way he's going and the elevation that he's got, especially that fight. And I don't know if that's part of fatherhood. He's got 2 beautiful twins.
Yeah.
And it maybe changes the man to think, okay, I'm fighting for my life here. I'm not just fighting for myself, but you're fighting for your kids. But he's just, his whole demeanour just looked like a fighter. He looked strong. He looked powerful. He looked accurate. And he just dominated Chandler.
Well, I really like Pimblett. And the day that, what's sad is in the fight game is it's a very hard way to make money. So he's got his twins. He needs to win his next 15 fights to become a multi-millionaire. Literally 15 in a row, like almost in a row. But, you know, the day he does, you know, lose, or if he does lose or does get knocked out, what's sad is a lot of people from his hometown who grew up exactly like he grew up, who should be big fans and big supporters of his, will start, like, you know, making jokes about him and stuff, if that ever does happen. But I won't, because he's fantastic and he's dedicated himself to something that's incredibly difficult, and he's trying to do it for his family. And how can you have anything but respect for him?
We've done that with Dan Tildo.
Yeah,
Great
I know.
fighter.
And I like Darren Till.
I love Dan. He only lost to world champion fighters.
Yeah, at the
and he was so close to winning the title.
So close
and
to
like
the
6
very top.
fights or something.
Yeah.
Very close.
And where's he from? Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Yeah, and Liverpool, and a lot of people, a lot of the Scousers and Liverpudlians just turned their back on him. Oh, Darren got knocked out. And I'll tell you why they did it. Because they had exactly the same potential as he did. Every mixed race kid growing up in Luton had the exact same potential I did. That's why they laughed when they put me in jail. And when Darren Till, you know, lost some of his fights, I'm glad he's now back at DAZN. He's doing some boxing. I'm glad he's back. But when he lost the big fight, the world title fight, people from his hometown were turning on him. And that's because those same people had exactly the same opportunity he had. They could have went to the boxing gym for 35 hours a week, the MMA gym, the wrestling gym, whatever, 35 hours a week like he did for 10, 15 years like he did, and became a somebody like he did, because Darren Till is a somebody. We are here talking about him, and we're some of the biggest podcasts that there are. So, you know, he's done very well as well. And it's sad for me to see people laugh at others' downfall.
Did you taste that then firsthand, being a kickboxer, champion, losing fights?
Yeah.
But you never lost with 9 fights?
I lost a European title defense. I lost a lot. Yeah, I lost plenty of fights. But back then, it was before the internet and before the days of, you know, not every fight I had was recorded. There's only like 8 or 9 on video that I can find. And, you know, but you'd have your people in your hometown. Oh, yeah, Tristan Tate lost his last kickboxing match. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, genuinely, who said I lost my last kickboxing match? Oh, you know that guy who went to school with us, his cousin. I'm like, what? Who cares? Because even when I was broke, I still had that accolade, even from a young age. I think I won the British title when I was 22 or 21 and a half. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm poor. Yeah, I live in a small apartment with a mattress on the floor and I don't have a bed frame. And yeah, but I'm the British champion, kickboxing. And I'm from Luton. So I always had this level of respect. The doorman, the bouncers, they let me in for free, that kind of stuff. So everyone kind of respected me.
How was your mum with your fighting? And Andrew, both son becoming fighters?
Terrified.
Was she?
Yeah, she was absolutely terrified, But I think, as I said, it refocused me. It saved my life in lots of ways. And also it it gave me a reputation that kept me out of trouble. I've got a funny story once, actually. I was in a Jamaican food shop opposite a nightclub, and I was hammered drunk. Probably couldn't have thrown a 1-2 punch combo without falling down. I was hammered drunk. I was there with my friend Peter, also hammered drunk, and he's half asleep on the table. So some fat guy walks in, but he's big, about 6'3", but just heavier set, maybe 120 kilos. And he knocks my friend's arm out of the way. My friend almost hits the table and wakes up. And as his mates are walking in, I say, "You fucking touch my friend again, you're dead." And like 3 other big dudes walk in. He's like, "Is that right, mate? I'm dead, am I?" And I didn't have really any choice at that point. I was like, "Yeah, you and all your mates." And my friend Peter, love him. I've known him since I was 15 years old. Can't fight. Never thrown a punch in his life. So I'm there by myself, way too drunk to fight. I was about to get my ass kicked if this ever went down. So these four people are like, "Look, the boss man's shop is to be respected. So I ain't doing anything in the shop. I'm going to finish my food. If you want to talk outside, you could talk outside." So I'm sitting there thinking, how the fuck am I going to get myself out of this mess? I have no clue. These 4 guys are going to run up on me. And, when you know how to fight, you know how vulnerable you are. If 4 big dudes, start tackling me to the floor and kicking me in the head, like I might be able to get one of them, but really, I'm definitely going to lose. So some little skinny dweeb walks in, and the big fat guy says to the little skinny dweeb, "Hey, look, that guy over there says he's going to knock us all out." And the skinny guy went, "Do you know who that is?" And I'm like, "What's going on here?" He went, That's Tristan Tate. It's one of the Tate brothers, the kickboxing champions from Storm Gym." And because these guys obviously weren't averse to physical combat, they didn't, I guess, really know how to fight. But there was 4 of them. They immediately caved, became super apologetic, and I just laid it on harder. I was like, "You're paying for me and my friend's food." They paid for our food. I got in the taxi and I thought, oh my God, I almost got my fucking ass beaten. But the reputation saved me somehow when this little guy walked in, because his brother actually trained at my gym. So yeah, it kept me out of a lot of trouble, and it saved my ass a few times.
What was it like having your first fight?
My first fight,
Your first pro fight?
I got knocked out in the second round with a body shot, because the guy had a record. It was a CIMAC event. CIMAC have shut down, I think, now, but they were a kickboxing federation. And what they do is they get there, and it's like this tournament system where you might fight 3 times in a night to see who's the best at the weight class in the area. And just my first fight, I got matched up with a guy who had 35-something fights. He'd actually fought my instructor a few years ago. My instructor had beaten him, but the guy was a very, very good first
Why
rank.
did they put you up that fight, first fight?
Well, it was randomly drawn.
Or was it?
And I had the guy who ended up winning the tournament in my first ever fight. And I was like, "This guy's good." My coach was like, "Yeah, he's good. He's had lots of fights, but fuck him." And I thought, okay, well, what was I going to do? I had my coach there, my brother there, my friends there. Got to get in there and fight. Second round, he hit me with a body shot. I hit the ground, and that was it. So
what made you go back?
I think that people either have it in them or they don't. Why, after running my mouth, which is what got me in trouble, by the way, running my mouth is why I had legal problems. Why am I back sitting on podcasts, ready to talk about any topic, ready to get myself in trouble again? Why, when I failed various businesses or had my heart broken, did I try again and get out there and brush myself off? I think that, defeat it's optional. Death is the only the final defeat. And there's the old cliche, I didn't lose, I just learned a lesson. And, my first fight was certainly a lesson. And it didn't even cross my mind to give up what I'd been dedicating 2.5, 3 years of my life to up until that point. It was the day after my 18th birthday, actually. My 18th birthday, I stayed in, I was making weight, I didn't drink, I didn't party, I didn't do anything. And the day after, July 16th, I got knocked out. And quitting just never crossed my mind. Some people, it doesn't cross our minds. That's why we are where we are. I've failed more times than most people have tried. And I think that's another lesson I got from kickboxing.
What was it like winning a European title?
Oh, that was fantastic.
What age were you?
23 and a half, 24.
Still young. Still a boy in it.
Yeah, very young.
What was that feeling?
Oh, it was very good. I was in front of my dad was there. I was in front of my home crowd. It was a show that was thrown in a big nightclub in Luton. So I had the home crowd advantage, as I say. Not that it really helps in boxing, because if someone knocks you out, they knock you out. There's only 2 of you in the ring. Yeah. But I had the home crowd on point. I was out at the casino afterwards, and everyone's coming up and shaking my hand and stuff. You get that, you feel like you've achieved something. You feel important. I've still got the belt. It's hanging in my bedroom. And
Dad proud of you? Because when I played football,
yeah,
I played semi-pro, and when I scored goals, I never got the recognition But my dad had a few cans.
Yeah.
I love you, son. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Next time, do this and that. And
Yeah.
I always felt more pressure when my dad was there.
Yeah.
I always felt as if I was always underachieving, because no matter if I finished the game, it was always, I should have done this. It was never great goal or well played. It was always looking at the faults. But if I had a drink, he was saying, you're brilliant, I'm proud of you. I didn't realise that, because I'm quite, as much as I love my kids and I'm very soft, I'm also very strict. And sometimes I wonder if I give them too much kind of like love and attention and try and pick them up in positivity.
Yeah.
But then again, on the other hand, the world is a tough fucking place.
Exactly.
So it's trying to find a balance. I don't want to be too strict where they don't come and speak to their dad.
Yes.
But then again, I don't want to be too soft, because they will run over the top of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you feel more pressure with your dad there? And did he give you the kind of flowers that you deserved, or was it one of those men who just stayed silent?
No, he was the strong silent type in lots of ways, but and he was extremely critical of everything that he was good at. So, if the way I speak, if I was playing chess, he's very critical at everything that he was an expert in. And he was a big, strong dude. It's where me and Andrew get our genetics from, but he wasn't a kickboxer. So he never criticized anything we did in terms of kickboxing. And he was always very, proud of us. He wasn't scared like my mom. He was happy for us to go fight anyone at any time, and he used to, talk about me, always in the United States, oh, my sons are kickboxers. They're on their way up. So, yeah.
See, when you trained, know how you had that fear over him?
Yeah.
Even though you become a trained killer, did you still have that fear?
Oh, absolutely.
That's mad.
I'm still scared of my dad now, and he's been dead for 9 years.
Yeah.
People be like, there have been times in my life, especially as a younger man, where I was offered access to drugs and things like that, and I never touched them out of fear of my father, because he was still alive. If I was at a party right now, and this probably happened a few years ago when I was in the UK, and I was at a party and everyone's doing lines of coke, and they're like, Tristan, you want a line of coke? Not only do I not want one, and I would never try one, and I always try to live as a good example, especially now I have a lot of people who follow me, but the first thing that came into my head was, coke, my dad will kick my ass. He'd already been dead by 5 years, for 5 years at that point. So yeah, it's no, there was never any idea in my head. I feel like you'd have to have a very bad father or an abusive father if you grow up thinking one day I'm going to beat this man up, because everyone gets old, and I have kids now. And if my kids, one day, hopefully, if I live long enough, when I'm 60, 70, my kids should be able to beat me up. The idea is that they don't, and they want to take care of me instead. So
that's a good thing coming from the strict householding, because a lot of kids, like you say, if you had really extreme abuse, a lot of kids can then turn to addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Pain, the mask the pain, like to say no in a generation, especially the UK, where drinking drugs is so acceptable, is sad. Listen, my whole fucking life from the ages of 16 to like 30 was coke and drink. I fucking loved it, brother. I just, even thinking about it, even you talking about racking up lines now, I'm thinking,
when's the
give me one.
one?
Even though I'm 7 years clean and I know how much my life is. I was never a fucking junkie, or I was a party boy.
Yeah.
My story's the same.
I have friends like that to this day.
My story's the same as the majority of people in the UK. I just used it and done something more productive with my life. Yeah, exactly. And just because I'm doing well, and listen, I travel the world, I'm interviewing guys like yourself, I've retired my mum, I've done amazing things, I still don't feel good enough. I still feel empty. And I always speak about this. I don't know what it is if I'm not showing enough gratitude. Struggle with my weight goes up and down, but everything else is fucking sweet. Got a few issues that I'm dealing with, but no doubt I'll face them like a man, like I always do. I don't run or hide from anybody, I never have.
Everyone's got issues.
Yeah, we've all got problems. Like, it's not a case of get the violin out, poor me.
Exactly.
Nobody gives a fuck.
Exactly.
I'm here myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Nobody's making it for me.
Yeah.
But when you go through kind of life, it is a mad, mad journey. I'm still trying to figure it out. I interview enough people. And the beautiful thing is, no matter if it's the billionaire or the homeless man, nobody knows what the fuck is going on.